start, I'm extremely excited to have here our guests, who are Andy, CTO and co-founder of BestPracticer, Cate Huston, engineering director and fantastic writer too, and Andrew Twyman, former staff engineer at Dropbox and already an esteemed member of the refactoring community with many insightful comments already. So thank you guys.
It's going to be somewhat experimental. Like Luca said, we're trying to replicate what we do in coaching sessions and try to bring it to a group setting. People have asked us before, hey, do you do group sessions? Do you ever think about doing this? And we always say, yeah, we think about it, but we've never really tried. And well, here we are trying. And I guess that the first thing I want to say is thanks to everyone who's going to do this experiment with us.
I think the something that already came up in the online discussion, but I'll echo, is the idea of having a designated point person, like an on-call or somebody who kind of accepts those incoming requests and acts as a shield to the rest of the team, so that they don't have to be interrupted by that if they're in the groove writing some code. Whether that would be a rotating responsibility or a consistent responsibility really depends on the types of requests you're dealing with. And in my last role at Dropbox, I was kind of as a tech lead, the designated point person for things like feature requests and other teams that wanted us to build something for them, and that was just a part of my ongoing role. But we also had an on-call rotation that dealt with urgent alerts from the system, but also questions coming in from other teams on Slack and things like that. And that's the kind of thing that can be just a...
I think this is a good conversation to have with my engineering manager.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I would...
this is great. Like, one thing that when you said century, it kind of brought up this word in my head, which was like measuring. Like, if the firefighter's only fighting fires, but they're not noting down at least a little bit about what those fires are and where they're coming from, then it's always going to feel reactive. So just some kind of maybe it's a fire log where one line per fire, and all it is just one word of where in the code base this was coming from. And after a few weeks of that, you might start to see some patterns. And then that's a really powerful thing to bring to your engineering manager, right? Hey, we've been fighting fires. We've been seeing this.
Somebody can get COVID. We're all just any long-term planning is just a hypothesis that humanity will still be going. And there's a good chance it won't be, right? But this kind of optimism I bring to my coaching, but you have a lot of certainty in what you have and what has happened, right? And so when you look to the place that you absolutely can't control and you're if everything was different, my life would be better. Yeah, that's probably true. Maybe true. Maybe your life would just be different, right? But if you look at where you are now, right, and everything you've accomplished over the last 4 years, and what you're trying to give your engineers on the team is a sense of progress and accomplishment. The way to get that is not necessarily to look forward to what you don't know about, but to look backwards and kind of...
Right. So one thing I find a lot with engineers, especially less experienced engineers, is they may not realize that being a technical voice in a product discussion is something that they might be good at, or that's part of the job, or realize that it's an opportunity for them. And so one clear thing that you could explore, I don't know the other engineers that you work with, but I'm willing to bet that at least one of them has an interest in being this voice as a learning path for them, right? So you can...
the struggle, of having all these meetings where I didn't know if I would add value or not, if it would make sense to participate or not. And I have to say that we really improved when we started enforcing structured agendas for meetings before entering the meetings, because in many cases, there were conversations in the agendas themselves. People started writing comments, and the agendas gave me a better feeling on whether I was really needed for the meeting or not.
One reason why it's challenging. I definitely don't subscribe to any idea that you have to have a background in coding to be effective leading a team of engineers. The first thing that I'll say is keep focusing on building and shipping stuff and partnering with your tech lead to do awesome things, because the first thing that you're going to have to convince a potential hire or otherwise is a track record of having delivered awesome stuff, right? Go ahead.
I might add a perspective. You asked about kind of expectations in the industry. When I was at Dropbox, I was there during a lot of growth and a lot of thinking about what are the roles of engineers versus managers, and what are the the levels. And I was there when we were defining our career levels framework. And I think that an explicit goal was that the managers are not the ones who are making the technical decisions. So I think that the role that you have with your tech lead of deferring technical decisions to them, I think is very natural and healthy. Like I don't see that as a crutch because of you lack a skill. It's the way that things should work.
Thank you.
I think the most useful thing about having a technical background as a manager is that it gives you some credibility, right? Just like coming in, because engineers care about it, but I don't believe they truly find it that useful, Right. So I know, like, if I get a new job, it's like, okay, she worked at Google. She must have been a good engineer. Like, nobody as a manager has ever asked me to help them optimize an algorithm for space and time. And, like, we didn't do that shit at Google either, right? So it's all just, like, it just gives you this, like, better starting point, right? And, like, realistically, you will have to pay that cost in new teams. Like, people will see that you came from a non-engineering background. They will ask you bullshit gotcha questions, and they will test you. But over time, that stuff just really doesn't matter. If you asked any manager's team, like, what they
I mean, first of all, just like thanks everybody for participating. It was amazing. I wasn't sure what kinds of questions would come up, so thank you for bringing real scenarios that you're really struggling with. I deeply appreciate you guys being vulnerable and doing that. And then thanks to Andrew and Cate for having awesome perspectives to bring. And Luca and Jasper, like, thanks for hosting us. If you want to learn more about BestPracticer, if you want to explore getting a coach for you, your team, I'll just post my contact info in the thread on the community afterwards. So just feel free to send me an email or book time with me to learn more about it. And that's it. I really just thanks everybody for coming and chatting. It was really fun.